Donald Trump has been struggling on inflation basically for well over a year now. It was, of course, what got him reelected back in 2024, the fact that Americans dislike Joe Biden's handling of inflation. But the Iran war has taken it to a whole new historic level. I want you to just take a look here. Okay, Trump's net approval on inflation. Pre the Iran war, according to Fox News polling, he was 30 points underwater. Look at this drop over just 3 months' time. 52 points underwater. I went back through the history books. There's no president before Trump who ever had a net negative inflation rating of at least 50 points underwater. And now Trump is doing it in the Fox News poll, minus 52. And I've seen it in a number of polls as well. And this decline matches. It has taken Trump from low levels to historically low levels in just 3 months' time. You rarely see this type of movement, but the Iran war has hit Americans' wallets, and they are taking out on the President of the United States.
That's the part of it that I just think is incredibly unusual. A 20-point drop in 3 months.
Just 3 months' time.
All right. Among whom?
Among whom? This is where it gets even more interesting, because just take a look here. Groups that shifted on inflation. Okay, Trump's net approval on inflation by your 2024 vote. Look at this. Harris voters have stayed pretty constant. They don't like Donald Trump very much at all. It went from minus 92 to minus 94. But look at Trump voters. This is where the decline is coming from. Trump voters have turned on Trump when it comes to inflation. Pre-war, he was at plus 37 points on the net approval rating on inflation. Look at this now. Trump voters, he has a negative net approval rating on inflation among Trump voters. We're talking an over 40-point decline in just a few months. That is the power of the Iran war on the Americans' wallet and Republicans' wallet, Trump voters' wallets.
40-point swing, Trump voters, 3 months.
All of that correct.
Okay. What does this do in terms of which party people trust more on the issue?
Yeah, okay, if Republicans who are running in the midterm elections don't think this is going to touch them, they got another thing coming. They got another thing coming, because here's a reality check for you. Okay, party trusted more in inflation midterm cycles. You go back to the last midterm cycle, look at this. Republicans were trusted more about this point by 19 points in inflation. Look at this now. Democrats, that's an over 25-point switcheroo in the Democrats' direction when it comes to inflation. And then I'll just note, look, you were talking about PCE earlier. What about this? Chance Mace CPI, a different measure of inflation, is above April's 3.8%. Look at this. 96% chance per the Kalshi prediction market. So the prediction markets, the people who are putting their money where their mouths are, don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon.
Yeah. How historic was Gordon's loss?
I feel like we're on the Tonight Show. How historic was it? How low do we go?
Exactly.
It was historic to a degree that we have not seen since my mother was born. And I'm not going to give the exact age, but you'll be able to figure it out, because just take a look here. Okay, the worst GOP senator primary lost by the margin, the worst ever for Republican senator. It now belongs to John Cornyn. His 28-point loss on Tuesday night was the worst since at least World War II for a Republican senator. We have seen this over and over and over again. When a Republican goes up against Donald Trump, or Donald Trump really goes up against them, it doesn't end too well for that Republican senator. We saw it just a few weeks ago with Bill Cassidy getting, just 25% of the vote, which was the lowest vote share total for any senator, incumbent senator. And now when looking at the margin, again, breaking history, the 28-point loss for John Cornyn, the worst for a Republican senator since at least World War II, Kate Baldwin. That is how historic it was.
That is, yeah, that fits into historic. Yeah. So Cornyn is kind of, if you were to say, like a Bush-era Texas Republican. How much has the party shifted from the Bush era, if you will, since Trump has come into the...
Yeah, I mean, look, John Cornyn was first elected back in 2002, and I will just tell you that the George W. Bush era of the Republican Party is, simply put, it is dead. It is dead, and this was the capstone to it. And Donald Trump... Republican Party is very much alive. He is the leader of the Republican Party. I just want you to look here. I mean, this just tells you everything that you need to know, which is the net favorable rating with the GOP. You have Donald Trump, you have George W. Bush. Before Donald Trump declared back in May of 2015, look at this. George W. Bush's net favorable rating was plus 58 points. Donald Trump was 45 points underwater with Republicans. Look at this. This is over 100-point shift, I do believe. Donald Trump is now at plus 61. That's an over 100-point shift in the positive direction for Trump. And look at what happened to George W. Bush. He dropped by 40 points from plus 58 to plus 17. So George W. Bush has fallen through the floor since Donald Trump, of course, first really appeared on the political scene, first ran for president for the Republican nomination back in 2015, declaring in June of 2015, while George W. Bush Simply put, as I said, his Republican Party is dead. Republican voters are very lukewarm on him, and Republican voters are still very hot to trot on Donald Trump. And you saw that in George W. Bush's home state of Texas on Tuesday night with John Cornyn, of course, a Bush-era Republican, going down to a historic defeat. The bottom line is that Donald Trump, it's his party across the political map, even in George W. Bush's backyard.
One thing you see in the numbers, one thing we heard from voters on the actual day, on election day, there was that they're going with Trump. Trump had accused Cornyn of not being loyal enough, and they were going with Trump when they were going to be supporting Paxton. How much, like, that begs a question of, like, how loyal do Republican voters want their electeds to be to President Trump?
Yeah, I think when you see this over 100-point shift towards Donald Trump, I mean, that's just crazy. But then you just ask the Republican voters, what do they want? What do they want from their members of Congress? GOP voters want congressional GOP to do more to work with Trump. 80%, 4 and 5, just 13% want him to do more to stand up to Trump. When 80% plus of the party is with you on any particular question, you know you own the party. This is, as I said, Donald Trump's Republican Party, and it's George W. Bush has simply put that Republican Party is dead. It's in the graveyard.
What are the prediction markets saying about whether or not she will be the nominee?
This is kind of those, I guess, never say never types of situations. But I just want to note just how volatile this kind of is, right? Because Chance Whitmer is the 2028 Democratic nominee. You know, at the end of the last presidential campaign, she was one of the front runners. A 15% chance is pretty gosh darn good when there's no incumbent, right? And there's potentially many people running. Now it's just a 1% chance. But again, 1% ain't zero, so it's never say never.
Well, that's what she's after she said she's not running and then said never say never. We don't know if she's made any announcement in the last few minutes. We'll have to stand by for that. Who is the current leader among Democrats for 2028?
Who the heck knows? What is going on out there? I mean, just take a look here. Okay. All right. 2028 Dem primary national poll leaders. There have been 4 different candidates who have led in a national poll this year. I have not the faintest idea. This is just an absolute ridiculous show in which we really don't know who the heck is ahead. If you know, you can give me a call the CNN hotline, and maybe we might even put you on the air.
How unusual is this?
How unusual is this? Okay, so just take a look at this. Okay. National early poll leaders getting at least 25% in the early polls, Democratic race for president. We got no one right now getting at least 25% of the vote. In 2020, Joe Biden was. In 08 and 16 was Hillary Clinton. No, I will know Barack Obama won in 08. And then in 00 and 04, it was Gore. Gore, of course, won all 50 state primaries in 2000. And then in 04, he decided not to run. But this is extremely, extremely unusual.
It is interesting, though. We always have a leader at this point. It isn't always predictive who will be the ultimate winner. Gore didn't even run in 2004. And, of course, Hillary Clinton did not win the nomination in 2008. So it is interesting in that. All right. So how, who has a chance? I mean, who is seen as having a chance? How many people are running? I don't even know how to phrase this question.
Everyone is running. Everyone is running. Take a look here. At least a 50% chance or greater than 50% chance of running for president in 2020, according to the Kalshi Prediction Market. 15 different Democrats. I even called my mom earlier today. She's saying she might run for president. So Democrats, line up, run. There's no early poll leader. It is truly a clown car of historic proportions.
I blew the wind up here, but basically this is asking who's got a chance of running. And 15 people have a greater than 50% chance?
Exactly. Everybody has a chance of running, John Berman. Maybe even you. Maybe you'll run for president one day.
I can't. I was born in Hawaii. Harriet, thank you very much.
$60 million they're putting into this.
Yeah.
And expecting or anticipating to lose $30 million. I mean, how big is UFC now?
I mean, UFC is huge now. One way to put it into some perspective for you, right, is how many people tuned into the initial event on Paramount Plus. It was 5 million people who tuned in. To give you an idea, so far in the NHL playoffs this year, from rounds 1 and 2, the average game is getting 3.3 million average viewership. Now, that's not exactly apples to apples, but it does suggest, and what a lot of the polling suggests as well, is that UFC right now is like the number 4 sport in America, right? It's football, baseball, basketball, and then UFC. It's huge.
No, it's huge. And it's also part, the group, I would say, if I'm going to generalize, that is attracted to this most, young men, are a big part of what helped get Donald Trump elected this time around. How is he doing with them right now?
Yeah, okay. So, as you mentioned, you look at the polling, you see that, the younger fans, it tends to be younger folks, younger men specifically, who are the big fans of UFC. And Donald Trump, of course, put in a historic performance with them back in the 2024 election for a Republican candidate for president. He actually won them. He won men under the age of 30 by a point. Look at his net approval rating now, though, with them. Oh, my goodness gracious. He is.
I was literally about to ask you if that was a typo.
No, that is not a typo. Me and my crack crew spend many hours on those slides, and we can tell you that is not a typo. That is a 56-point move against the President of the United States among young men who helped put him over the election, and now he is very much struggling with them. Maybe that's part of the reason why he wants to put an event like this to try and connect with some of them.
But there are people with reservations about kind of how this whole thing is set up. Like Joe Rogan is openly criticizing having this fight at the White House, which is, according to Sports Business Journal, UFC is also paying $700,000 to repair the grass that will be damaged by this. That is a real thing, though. Don't giggle. You can't have the grass in the south lawn being disaster. No, you would be a poor one, a very bad one, I would say. I want to play for you what Rogan has said.
Okay.
The White House thing is odd. I don't like it. I don't like the idea of fighting outside at all.
Rogan's take sometimes. Tell us something we don't know.
I'll tell you something that you don't know, Kate Baldwin, which is I went back through the record books and I was wondering, an event outside, that, in my opinion, never happens with the UFC. And in fact, in America, before this White House event, there have been 000 UFC fights that have actually occurred outside in events in America. Now, there was one overseas, but the bottom line is this is really rare. No wonder Rogan is so perturbed by it.
Everywhere. It's a miracle you didn't get bit. Ew, is that?
I'm having a really fucking bad day, Michael.
Where's Tom Crudo? Get away from this house, you fool! Ray, what are you doing? Give me the gun! No! You have been beaten. You will turn. It's as I know. I've seen it now. Get away!
Freya, they were at the crash. I invited them. Just give me the...
No! I will not have this devil in my house.
Your house. You may have snuck your whole family in the moment I was gone, but this is still my home.
You abandoned me.
Well, I'm back now, and you are still my housekeeper, so give me the bloody gun.
Here. For fuck's sake. God. I need to lie down.
Emma, we've got a problem. Our friend here has been bitten.
So? What the bloody hell does that mean?
It means they will turn into a beast. We must kill them.
This is not a movie. I'm not killing them.
Definitely not my job description. Oh God. Are they turning? Oh, I'm gonna be sick.
Shoot them!
Here's my take. Why is the most powerful country on the planet unable to get its way with a much smaller, weaker country that has been ravaged by economic sanctions and military strikes? At one level, the simplest way to understand America's problem in the Iran war is to use game theory. Donald Trump decided to play a game of chicken with Iran. Think of two drivers racing straight at each other. In these situations, if the stakes for one side are existential and for the other much lower, the side with those bigger stakes usually prevails. For the Iranian regime, if they lose, there's a good chance they end up toppled and slaughtered. For Trump, it would be a bad weekend at Mar-a-Lago. It's easy to see why the Iranians would be more willing to lock their steering wheel in that game of chicken. But there's a broader reason why America has found it so difficult to handle Iran, one that is not just about Trump and this latest ill-conceived war. Ever since the Islamic regime took power in Iran, America has been of two minds about it. On the one hand, the U.S. has had certain issues it wanted resolved, from the return of the hostages to nuclear limits. On the other hand, it wants to topple the regime, not just negotiate with it. There is a tension in these two attitudes that has run through American foreign policy for almost half a century. Does Washington want to change certain policies of Iran, or does it want to change Iran? If Washington negotiates with Tehran, inevitably there is give and take. There are concessions on both sides. There is some relaxation of hostilities. Above all, in engaging with it, the United States government is conferring a certain degree of legitimacy on the Islamic Republic, treating it as a serious negotiating partner, accepting that it represents Iran on the world stage. But that acceptance sits uneasily with some American elites who feel that the Islamic Republic is illegitimate, should not exist, and Washington's only policy toward it should be to overthrow it. And yet there are things Washington wants that only Iran can deliver. That is why even Ronald Reagan found himself secretly negotiating with the Iranian mullahs while publicly denouncing them. We can see the tension almost daily in Donald Trump's policy toward Iran. One social media post threatens to destroy Iranian civilization and bring an end to 47 years of evil. Another one that same day speaks of the progress being made in negotiations with Iran. Trump enters negotiations and seems optimistic about a deal with Iran, and in between rounds starts a war with Tehran and urges Iranians to overthrow their government. Less than a week later, he's back to promising that if they agree to his demands, Iran will have a very bright future. America had a similarly contradictory attitude toward the Soviet Union. After the communists took control of Russia in 1917, Washington broke relations with it and even tried in some small ways to overthrow it. It took Franklin Delano Roosevelt about 15 years later to recognize its existence and exchange ambassadors with Moscow. The tension reemerged after World War II. In the 1970s, Henry Kissinger's policy of negotiation with the Soviet Union was pilloried on the right because it was seen as bolstering the standing of an evil empire. Kissinger's response was always that America stood in ideological opposition to the Soviet Union, but that it also had certain national interests, like the control of nuclear weapons, which could not be handled without agreements with Moscow. Kissinger's equivalent in the Iran debate was Barack Obama. Obama's was the one administration to make a choice. It determined that while America might prefer another regime in Iran, it had to deal with this one to tackle the greatest danger to America's national interest, which, as with the Soviet case, involved nuclear weapons. The Iran nuclear deal was an effort to take the one most dangerous element of Iran's foreign policy and neutralize it. And it succeeded at that. But for many on the right, the price was that it, in some sense, legitimized the regime. So Trump pulled the U.S. out of the deal, which then led to the discrediting of then Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and the return of the hardliners in Tehran, who ramped up Iran's enrichment program, which has brought Donald Trump right back to the same dilemma. Does he make a deal or take a stand? At this point, it's clear that Trump wants a deal. But in making it, he might end up giving the Islamic Republic what it has been seeking for 47 years: unqualified acceptance, even from the most hardline elements of the United States. For Tehran, that is a prize worth many concessions. Regular viewers know that I have not been a fan of Donald Trump's foreign policy in his second term. From threatening to seize Greenland and annex Canada, unilaterally raising tariffs sky high, to the fiasco of the Iran war, Trump has been reckless, chaotic, and deeply destabilizing. But he might well turn out to have the right instincts and perhaps even the right policy in one crucial arena, the US-China relationship. In Trump's recent interactions with Xi Jinping, we saw a version of him rarely on display. He was respectful, almost deferential, eager to emphasize their personal rapport. Xi, by contrast, remained formal, disciplined, and never especially warm. The asymmetry was revealing. Donald Trump is obsessed with power. More than ideology or values, of course, he thinks in terms of leverage and dominance. He insults European allies because he understands how dependent they remain on American military protection and access to US markets. Trump senses weakness and exploits it. But with China, he has come to understand something that much of Washington still struggles to accept emotionally. Beijing has enormous strength of its own, economic, technological, industrial, even military, and can wield it effectively. So Trump has evolved from belligerence toward a more complicated mix of rivalry and cooperation. That may be what this relationship requires. Contrast Trump's visit with the first meeting of Biden officials with their Chinese counterparts in Anchorage in 2021. The Americans launched into a televised public scolding of China over human rights, cyber attacks, and the international order. China's diplomats responded angrily in kind. It was less a serious diplomatic exchange than a cable news shouting match. Many centrist Democrats live in fear of being portrayed as soft on China. So they often overcompensate rhetorically, adopting maximalist language and escalating symbolic confrontations. After showing skepticism toward Trump's China tariffs during the campaign, Joe Biden kept nearly all of them in place. Biden never visited China as president, nor did he invite Xi Jinping to Washington. The Biden team endorsed the claim, leveled by the first Trump administration, that China's actions in Xinjiang constituted genocide, a term that evokes industrial-scale extermination campaigns like the Holocaust or Rwanda. China's prison and re-education camps in Xinjiang are brutal and horrific, and dozens of scholars have called its actions against the Uyghurs a genocide. But as The Economist noted, it is not what most people think of when conjuring up the word genocide. Trump's superpower is that he cannot be attacked from the right. He came to power after the 2016 election, railing against Beijing, blaming it for lost manufacturing jobs, trade imbalances, and America's industrial decline. In a sense, the analogy is not Nixon going to China, but rather Ronald Reagan, the Uber hawk to the right of Nixon, going to the Soviet Union. Trump may be capable of a similar pivot precisely because his base will follow wherever he leads. One need only look at how quickly many MAGA figures reversed themselves on intervention in Iran once Trump signaled support for military action. Why would a more cooperative approach toward China make sense? Because the truth is that China is not the Soviet Union. The Soviet economy was smaller than Italy's by the end of the Cold War by one UN measure. China, by contrast, is the world's second largest economy, the leading trading partner for more than 120 countries, and a technological powerhouse in fields ranging from electric vehicles and batteries to drones, advanced manufacturing, and even artificial intelligence. It produces more manufacturing output than the United States, Japan, and Germany put together. Trying to launch a full-scale Cold War against such a country would not resemble the struggle against Moscow when the world was already divided. It would mean tearing apart the global economy itself. American consumers would face higher prices and supply shocks. U.S. companies would lose access to one of the world's largest markets. Universities would lose many top students. The danger would not simply be economic pain. It would be the creation of two hostile technological and geopolitical blocs spiraling toward increasing confrontation. Of course, the U.S. and China are rivals. That is unavoidable in a bipolar world. They will compete economically, militarily, and strategically for decades to come. But rivalry need not mean total rupture. In the weeks before he died, Henry Kissinger noted to me that leaders of both countries should keep in mind how, in 1914, nationalist competition, pursued with no concerns about its consequences, led to a world war that upended the entire global order. In an age of AI, cyber warfare, and nuclear weapons, maintaining channels of dialogue and cooperation is more important than ever. The two countries should compete fiercely while still trading, talking, and collaborating where possible on nuclear stability, AI safety, pandemics, and financial crises. During the Cold War, Washington and Moscow maintained arms control talks even at moments of intense hostility because both sides understood that unmanaged rivalry could end in catastrophe. That remains true today. And if Donald Trump, for reasons rooted less in philosophy than instinct, has come to recognize this basic reality, then on this issue at least, his pragmatism makes sense. I think he is a more mature, more disciplined version of himself than he was in his first term. That's what Jeff Bezos said about President Trump this week. I'm puzzled by this statement from an obviously intelligent and accomplished businessman. I look at Trump's second term, and I see the ham-handed efforts to annex Greenland and Canada, massive tariff hikes on most of the world, a cruel immigration crackdown that was both lawless and ineffective, and the sudden launching of a war without UN sanction, congressional consultation, or any clear strategy. If this is maturity, I would shudder to think what Trump's immature phase would look like. The opposite is actually closer to the truth. Trump's first term was disciplined, more disciplined not because he was disciplined, but because he was constrained. He often deferred, however grudgingly, to the Republican establishment and national security elites. His early legislative agenda was shaped by Speaker Paul Ryan and executed by Chief of Staff Reince Priebus. Top economic advisor Gary Cohn repeatedly talked him out of the global tariff hikes he had long wanted. The generals whom he surrounded himself with urged caution on Iran, support for NATO, and arms for Ukraine. The lesson Trump drew from that first term, however, was not that expertise mattered. It was that experts were not loyal enough. After the January 6th attack, you see, many of his senior officials distanced themselves from him. Some denounced him. So this time, he has surrounded himself with people whose chief qualification is fealty. The less distinguished the resume, the better. Such people owe everything to him. Process has given way to impulse, procedure to instinct, government to gut. But the starkest difference between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0 is not policy. It is enrichment. Its scale, its brazenness, its open contempt for restraint. The day before Bezos made his remarks, the acting Attorney General of the United States announced that the Justice Department would grant Trump, his family, and his businesses immunity from all audits and investigations for any past tax-related misconduct, and the announcement claimed it would last forever. The week before, Trump disclosed that his stock portfolio had executed around 3,700 trades in the first quarter alone, a staggering number, many following a suspiciously convenient pattern. A stock bought shortly before a government action or statement that benefited it. On January 6th of this year, for example, the Trump portfolio bought $500,000 of NVIDIA stock. A week later, NVIDIA received U.S. clearance to sell its H200 chips to China. That was not all. The Commerce Department this week announced an investment in a quantum computing company in which a member of the Trump family holds interests. And don't forget the $500 million UAE investment in a Trump family crypto venture, the $2 billion UAE investment using that company's stablecoin, the flurry of new Trump organization real estate deals, or the drone company in which the Trump family invested and that later miraculously received a Pentagon contract. One number says it all. Reuters calculates that from the first half of 2024 to the first half of 2025, the Trump organization's income rose from $51 million to $864 million. This does suggest discipline, a relentless discipline devoted to monetizing the presidency. But somehow I doubt that is what Jeff Bezos had in mind. The Trump organization has maintained that Trump himself, his family, and the organization don't have any role in directing or influencing specific investments. The deeper question is, why is this possible? And why has it produced so little resistance? Scholars of corruption have long assumed that in advanced democracies, graft becomes subtle and institutional. Campaign donations, lobbying networks, consulting contracts. Trump has taken the elaborate machinery of an advanced industrial state and used it to accelerate something far cruder, old-fashioned personal grift. The public may be troubled, but his MAGA base doesn't seem to be, and that is the only constituency that could restrain him. In a hyperpolarized country, corruption is no longer judged as an objective moral failing. It is filtered through tribe.
We go now to the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, who joins us from Kyiv. Welcome back to Face the Nation, Mr. President.
Thanks so much, Margaret.
You have warned that Ukraine has intelligence that Russia is preparing for a new massive attack. This is after Moscow had warned foreign nationals to leave your capital city ahead of expanded strikes. Exactly what are you bracing for?
So first of all, today at night or tomorrow at night, we think that we will have a big attack from Russian side using drones, using cruise missiles and ballistic. And we see the preparation. Always we see the preparation. By the way, we are thankful to United States and European partners when they share with us intelligence. So when we know that Russia prepares a big massive attack, definitely our partners also know. Maybe not a lot of details, but we know. So today, of course, I didn't address yet to my country. I will do it a little bit later in the evening. And of course, I will say that our people have to be very, very careful, cautious, and children, and they have to use bomb shelters because today at night or tomorrow at night, high percent, of course, nobody knows it 100%, but really 100%. So usually we have each day attack from Russian side on civilians and of course on battlefield. And 2 times a week or 2 times per 10 days, they have big massive attacks with ballistic and etc. Last massive attack, just to understand, it was some days ago, it was 600 drones, Iranian drones, Shaheeds, and they had about 30 plus ballistic missiles, and total it was 90 missiles and more than 600 Iranian drones. So it was very difficult to destroy it. We use all of what we have, what we produce, and of course we use anti-ballistic missiles. This is the biggest deficit for us.
Overnight, a Russian drone slammed into a Romanian building. We also saw a Russian drone hit a Turkish ship. These are NATO member states. We're hearing from European countries that Russia is taking more and more operational risks in Europe. Why do you think Vladimir Putin is taking these risks at this moment?
First of all, it's not the first time. Yes, he's doing such pressure. I think it's political pressure. It's messages from Russia. Don't help Ukraine. I think this is the most usual meaning. What he used. Don't. If you will help Ukraine, I will do these such steps. So he tried once crossing at the very beginning of this war. He did it in Romania, and then a little bit later it was in Poland when they used 21 drones. Then, for example, today at night it was again Romania. Not the first time. We gave these messages to our Romanian partners at night. Usually we try to catch all the drones, even when they're direction to other countries like Romania, Moldova, or the direction of Poland. We try to catch everything. If we can't, of course, we give these messages to our partners. We try to help them. And also the same with the Baltic countries, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia. So Russia uses this just to attack politically and by weapon pressure on NATO countries to look and the reaction. So the reaction, I think the reaction has to be more strong from the unity of NATO countries. And I think that Putin is comparing how this reaction and how it's changed during this 1 year or 2 years, 3 years. This is the way how, and he also the testing of air defense of other countries, NATO countries, which are bordering us or bordering Belarus or Russia. So he's testing what air defense they have. Can they destroy all the missiles or drones? This is what I think.
You sent a personal letter to the White House and to Congress within the past few days explaining that ballistic missiles, as you put it, remain Vladimir Putin's last major battlefield advantage. You need a surge of interceptors to take these missiles out. Have you gotten a response from America?
Thank you very much for this question. This is this is the priority for us and big challenge. We had a very difficult, tough winter. Russia attacked us by a lot of ballistic missiles on our energy infrastructure, water supply, schools, universities. It was very difficult. Now we see a big deficit. Of course, one of the reasons is the situation in the Middle East with the Iranian war, and we see that the deficit is increasing. And we need to hurry up to rush and to send messages and meetings and do a lot of meetings with other partners. We don't see enough missiles in production of the United States. We see that it can be crisis in the world, including the Middle East. Of course, I hope, God bless, that the ceasefire will be long and lasting peace. I wish it to Middle East countries and to the United States. And I hope that President Trump and his team and American side will negotiate ceasefire. But what we see, we have to prepare for the challenges. And we in Ukraine, we don't have ceasefire. We have a long 5 years war. And we see that Russia is increasing in their internal production, their production of ballistic missiles. And we have deficit with anti-ballistic. This is a big problem. I sent a letter to the White House and Congress of the United States, and I hope that they will understand and will answer, respond. And this is very important. We need to increase the production. I know all the companies in the United States, huge companies, great companies, but only the United States can produce such number. 60, 65 missiles per month for today's challenges. It's nothing. Russia knows it. It's not, secret information. We need to do production wider. Germany now has some licenses. I asked previous administration. I'm asking today's administration, give Ukraine licenses. We will increase the production of Patriot missiles. It will be very helpful for us. It will be very helpful for Middle East, for everybody whom the United States will decide to help.
But the United States has not granted you that yet. Do you expect to speak to President Trump or anyone in the U.S. government about it?
We spoke with President Trump. I'm thankful that we can share this topic between us. We created the program, Ukrainian, European, and United States Common Program Program. Through this program, we send European money, about it, and we can buy. But now we can't buy a lot. There is the deficit in production. It's not the topic of money today. It's not about presence from the United States and etc. So we just need it very much.
Right. These are the European-funded weapons program that NATO administers, but they're American-produced interceptors. I understand that. But Secretary of State Rubio recently said that Ukraine has the strongest military in all of Europe. The Army Secretary of the United States called the Ukrainian battlefield the Silicon Valley of war, praising how you've integrated AI and anti-drone technology. So you have this edge on this type of warfare. Can you use it in any way to take down these Russian missiles, or are you solely dependent on American manufacturing to help?
So I can give you one example very quickly. When we got messages to help in the Middle East to defend some bases with some American soldiers and also infrastructure of Middle East countries like Saudi or Emirates and etc. And I came with our groups. We sent more than 200 our experts. Such